this might be the secret to what you really needed on your Instagram. So you probably know that a lighter, bright Instagram theme seems to be very popular with some really pretty pops of like pastel colors, and maybe that's kind of the Instagram aesthetic that you are striving for. So this is what I'm going to show you how to do today. What's up, you guys? My name is Samantha Huger. Welcome back to my channel. So I think it was about 2 years ago maybe I did this little video just kind of on a whim to show you guys how to create a white themed Instagram. Somehow this horrible video of mine has over 200,000 views, and it's completely not how I edit my photos anymore. So I wanted to do an update for you guys and show you guys exactly how I edit my photos. So let me talk about my favorite app, and that app is called VSCO. So here, I'll show you it right here on my screen. VSCO right here, this white one right there. So I've uploaded a lot of photos on here already, and you just hit the little plus sign at the very top, right up there in the top corner, to add your photos or your videos. Actually, you can do videos as well. So first I want to show you my favorite filters and just kind of how I edit my photos to brighten them, make my skin look a little bit darker and more tanned, and to kind of change up the colors, make certain colors not as bright and saturated, and to change kind of the tone of other colors. I'll just show you guys my favorite ways to do it. So let's just start with this one right here. Hang on. Here. So you click on the photo that you want to edit, and then you click on these little slider, like this little slider icon down here at the bottom. I have already gone through and I have favorited certain filters. I really like pretty much all of the A series filters. If you want to go through, I have a full year subscription to all of the filters on VSCO. I think it's $25 a year. It's well worth it to me. So what you can do to add your favorite filters to the first filters you see is by clicking on this line with the stars here, and you can just put a star next to any of the filters that you really like. So I have starred all of the A filters because I really like all of them. And my two favorites currently are A4 and A6. They're very similar, but these two are my favorites. You can see kind of the change here. What you can do to see what your photo looked like before you added the filter is just to press and hold on the photo, and then you can kind of see what the photo looked like before and after. I think for this one, I'm gonna go with A4 because I've been using that filter a lot on my Instagram feed lately. What I do on almost all of my photos is I will add the filter. If the filter feels like it's a little bit too strong, you can click on the filter again, and it will pull up a slider where you can change how strong the filter is. Currently, I am really liking just having a nice, strong filter. Sometimes with this filter though, it can make it feel like my skin has gotten really washed out. And if I feel like my skin is getting a little bit washed out, I will also, before I go into VSCO, I will use a different app with the original photo. And that app is FaceTune 2. This app is awesome, especially for us pale girls who just want to look just a little bit more tan and not completely white. Okay, so I can pull up that photo on FaceTune 2, and I can go to the Paint tab here, and there are several skin tones that you can use. I personally like this one right here that I've pulled up to the top because it isn't super orangey. And I'm gonna turn it down just a little bit, and then I'll just go over the areas of my skin that I want to look a little bit darker. Oh, look at how nice I had my nails painted when I took this picture. Sometimes it'll look a little bit blotchy, so what you can do, I'll show you in a second once I kind of get it all on there. And then you can see the before and after photo by hitting this little button with the two squares. That was before and that's after. I can take it down a notch. I can turn it up darker. I think it's pretty good right there in the middle. So I'm just gonna click the little check mark because I'm happy with that. But I don't really like how my skin right here is looking a little bit blotchy. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go into retouch and I'm gonna hit smooth. I'm just gonna smooth that out just a little bit, just so it doesn't look so blotchy, because it can kind of tend to do that when you use the paint. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the check mark and then the box with the up arrow and save to camera roll. And then I'm gonna go back into VSCO and I'm actually gonna upload that photo that we just did right there, and I'm going to import that photo into my VSCO. So again, we select the photo and click on the little sliders. So this time I like that my face just looks a little bit more tan and not so white with the A4 filter. Another thing that I like to do is click on the little slider icon next to the filter. So this is the filters icon, and this allows you to do some micro adjustments. And I do like to do some adjustments to the color that I really want to show you, because this might be the secret to what you really needed on your Instagram. To help you to really get that aesthetic that you are really looking for. So one thing I like to do always is to turn up the exposure a little bit, which is another reason why I try and make myself a little bit more tan, because when I turn up the exposure, the skin color on me just goes completely to white pretty much. So, but I want my photo to look nice and bright, so I'll usually turn up the exposure just a tad, depending on how light the photo is already, and I'll hit the check mark. Another really important tool on VSCO that will really help you to even more fine tune your photos is this HSL. And what this does is you can choose specific colors in the photo that you want to turn up the saturation, that you want to change the hue, that you want to make it lighter or darker. So I'm going to show you some tricks with this. I like my photos to have not very much yellow and to have a really good pop of like red and orange. So what I like to do is for the reds, since I'm on red right now, I like the reds to have a more orange hue to them. So I usually turn them down to this end of the hue slider so that they're more orange. You can turn down the saturation, see how my lips are really saturated and then not so much. So I like to turn up the saturation just a little bit, and you can turn up the lightness as well, and it will kind of even make the reds pop even more on the photo. So again, I'm gonna do something similar with the orange, but because my skin tone is usually the thing in the photo that's sort of the most orange typically, especially if I use the FaceTune tanning app, what I like to do is to turn the lightness of orange down a little bit. Do you see how that is making my arm look just a little bit more tan? Do you see the difference? It's making it just look a little bit darker. So I like to do that instead of turning up the brightness on it, because that will make it so that I'm not as tan. So I'm gonna turn down the lightness of the orange a little bit and kind of turn it a little bit more towards the red zone, and turn up the saturation a bit. For yellows, I typically really like to make the yellows more on the orange side, and I will turn down the saturation just a little bit. I don't like to take the saturation all the way away, because as you can see, it just completely takes out a lot of the color in your skin. So I'll just turn it down just a little bit. And then for the saturation on greens, typically I'll turn it down and also change the hue to a more teal type of green. And same thing for the blues. There's not much blue in this photo. I'll typically turn down the saturation a little bit on those, and for purple, I pretty much just turn that one all the way down. Typically that color doesn't really show up in a lot of my photos, just the way I have them set up. So now you can see before, after, before, after. Some of the Instagram aesthetic that I am finding that is becoming more popular is adding grain to your photos. This is something that you can do. I'll do this sometimes just on certain photos. So I can do that over here under grain, and it kind of gives it more of like a vintage feel. So you probably wouldn't turn it all the way up this high, but like turning it somewhere in the middle, it kind of gives it that vintage grain look to it. And it's kind of fun Kind of reminds me of back in the day when we used to have the like disposable cameras that you turn the film and you take the photos and you take it to summer camp, and then you come home and you take your film or your disposable camera to Walmart and get them developed. That's what that reminds me of. So it's kind of a fun aesthetic, especially for us millennials who remember those days very, very fondly. So for this one, I'm just gonna turn up just a little bit of grain. And right now I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. And then to save this to my camera roll, I just hit the 3 dots down here at the bottom and hit save to camera roll, and I always save it to actual size. If you want to add even more like dust and just kind of like a vintage effect to your photo, what I like to use is this app called Afterlight. So I just saved that photo from VSCO. Now I'm gonna go into Afterlight and I'm gonna upload this photo from Afterlight. It's got that nice grain to it. What I can do from here is click on the 2 circles there at the bottom and go to dust. There's 2 different things you can do here. You can add the dust, and there's all different kinds of dust that you can add. If, let's just say, you want to add dust so that it's got the white specks, you can do that, or you can take this slider and you can turn it down and it'll put black specks into, or gray if you'd like, into your photo as well. So I really like that one. So let's just hit the check mark. And I like that. Another thing that you can do is add different lights to your photo. Again, this is going to be kind of an aesthetic that you'll remember when you had those disposable cameras and you'd catch the light somehow kind of funny, and your photo would have like this big orange spot on the side of the photo. I'm sure you guys remember those. You can add these into something similar into your photo editing right here on your iPhone. Usually for these, I wouldn't turn the saturation up all the way. This slider right here at the bottom allows you to kind of change up the saturation, but you can go through all of these different light leaks is what they're called. And you can also change the color of them, which is really cool. So I could make my photos kind of more purpley or kind of more orange. Lately, I've been really into the white and orange aesthetic. I love that look for some reason. And you can click on the light leak again and it will change. Here, let me turn up the saturation so you can see it better. It'll change which side of the photo the light leak is coming in on. So I really like that. So I'm gonna hit the check mark and I'm going to hit next and I'm going to save. I just want to show you again on another photo really quick. This photo was really popular when I uploaded it to my Instagram. It got a ton of likes. This is the original right here, and I'm going to show you how you can transform this photo and make it into something even greater using VSCO. So again, I'm going to use A4. Again, I just love how it turns up the contrast. It whitens up the whites, it darkens the oranges. It just makes it look just amazing. So you can see the huge difference there with this photo. Another thing I would do for this one is to just up the exposure a little bit more again, and probably go into the oranges and reds, and again make the reds a little bit more orange and turn up the saturation. Darken the lightness of the oranges so that I look just a little bit more tan if possible. We got to get it where we can. Maybe go like this. Turn up the saturation just slightly. And then I would go in and just kind of turn down a little bit of the saturation on the yellows. There really wasn't much green in this photo, just those bottles, and actually I kind of wish those bottles looked a little bit more green. So I'm going to turn up the saturation on those bottles right there. Turn down the saturation on the blues and just take this all the way down. So you can see before and after the difference in these 2 photos. Again, those are my favorite apps currently that I'm using to gain that white Instagram aesthetic with kind of the pastel-y type colors and the pops of oranges and the really bright whites and the really dark blacks and the kind of contrasty look. So I hope you guys like this video. If you did like this video, please make sure you like it. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button below. I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.